Welcome back to Radio Entrepreneurs, a show about entrepreneurs and those organizations that support them. We're pleased to be broadcasting this week from the UMass-Dartmouth Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship and focusing on all of the great things that are not just happening in southern New England, but happening right here on the south coast of Massachusetts. I'm your host, Toby Stapleton. I'm the director of the UMass-Dartmouth Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship. One of the organizations at the epicenter of what's happening on the South Coast is the South Coast Chamber of Commerce, and so we're pleased to have with us as a guest today Rick Kidder, the president and CEO of the South Coast Chamber. Rick, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Toby, and it's a pleasure to be here.
So Rick, we work closely with the South Coast Chamber, the university, and the Center for Innovation and Entrepreneurship, but can you tell the listeners a little bit about the Chamber?
Sure. The Chamber is actually 132 years old. It was founded in 1885. And the organization, since its beginning, has been there to support business, primarily small business. Although we have large business members, a lot of our companies are small business and emerging companies that are looking to grow. And they do that through programs and services that the Chamber offers.
Right. That's great. So dating back to the 1800s, that must have gotten its start in the whaling days.
It did. It actually got its start in the whaling days and the old mill days.
Right.
And it was at that point kind of the seat of the movers and shakers of the community. They were there representing not only the community, but representing the business interests of the community. Since that time, chambers have evolved relatively dramatically.
Yeah, that's one of the things I'd love to talk about is, if you look at the region, the South Coast region of Massachusetts has changed dramatically in the last 30 years, but I think we're seeing a seismic shift in the business landscape and the industrial landscape of the South Coast. And so I know you are again in the middle of that. So can you tell us a little bit about so what's the chamber membership today, and what are the kind of things that you do on the South Coast?
The chamber has about 1,000 business members, and those business members range from one or two all the way up to the largest employers in the region. And we are a regional organization. Although we're based in New Bedford, and for many years we're called the New Bedford Area Chamber of Commerce, we actually represent 10 communities. And those 10 communities kind of span the South Coast from Westport to Wareham. The kinds of programs that we do to support small business are really things like very, very basic stuff. Networking, teaching them about marketing. We run academic classes that are not for credit classes. They're really designed to give people tips in order to succeed in the business community. And we work with an awful lot of startups because that is actually what's happening here now. I think for many years this area was considered something of a forgotten corner of the Commonwealth. And the reality is now it's a growing, emerging economy that's getting stronger and stronger as each year passes. So we're seeing far more infrastructure here than we've seen in the past.
Right. And I think that's absolutely right. The old saying used to go, when Massachusetts caught a cold in terms of an economic downturn, southeastern Mass would catch pneumonia. Correct. And I don't think that's the case anymore because of that diversification. And as you mentioned, what we didn't see 10 years ago was the startup scene. And now you're seeing a lot of great things happening. And later, one of the interviews, we're going to be interviewing the folks that started Groundwork, which is a co-working space in New Bedford. And 5 years ago, you never would have talked about starting a co-working space in New Bedford, or probably would have had a difficult time getting that going.
And we've got actually 2 co-working spaces now.
Oh, okay.
Groundworks is up and running, and there's a new one coming on board that Whale has put together on Union Street. So we're starting to see more and more of that infrastructure coming in that is actually going to, it's the environment where entrepreneurs flourish, is where there are other entrepreneurs.
Right.
And so we're starting to see that. We're starting to see more capital investment as well. And when you start to see capital starting to flow towards these startups, then you start to see, okay, we're actually building the ground that we need in order to actually create an incredibly fertile environment.
Right.